Hello, this is Mary Collardita, and I'm always looking at how to know God's will. Well, we know God's will by what He says. You know, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So when God speaks, it is from the abundance of His heart. And so He tells us what His will is. So today we're looking at Ezekiel chapter 17, verse 24. And all of the trees of the field shall know that I, the Lord, have brought down the high tree, have exalted the low tree, have dried up the green tree, and have made the dry tree to flourish. As I, the Lord, have spoken, so will I do. Okay, so that's the verse. And it talks about trees. There's a high tree and a low tree. There's a green tree and a dry tree. Opposites. Well, we could figure that God's not talking about trees, but He's talking about people. And He says, the high tree will be brought low, and the low tree will be exalted. The green tree will dry up, and the dry tree will flourish. Now, in our natural looking at things in nature, we would think that a tall tree is a beautiful tree, and a tree that is green is strong and healthy. And so those are the trees. In fact, I just contracted with a tree company to prune some trees. We've got some very tall trees in our yard, but they have branches that are falling. But the trees that are flourishing and strong and upright, we would think, well, that's the best trees. Well, so why would God say otherwise? Why would He say the high tree is going to be brought down and the green tree is going to be dried up? Because He's not talking about trees. Once again, He's talking about people. The high person, the green, the wealthy, the prosperous person, not just financially, but the person who is quite content with themselves and what they do, and they are strong and mighty, and by my hand I can do anything. I can do it. I can. I. And the low, who's the low person? The one, it's not necessarily the low tree, the tree that hasn't grown very well, or the tree that is dried up. Are those, they could be full of pride too. I mean, just because a person seems lowly or poor or the underdog, it doesn't mean that they're not high in their heart and self-exalted in their heart and quite green in their heart. They can be. Their words betray their heart. So you gotta listen carefully to the words that come out of people, and especially listen to the words that come out of your own mouth. Are you exalting yourself? Are you a high tree? So when we think of those who are high and mighty, we think of those who are proud. Pride is a lot of it. It's not the wealth. It's not the success. It's not the possessions or the lack of them or the lack of, or poverty or any. It is not our outward situation that determines our heart. But so we can be proud, even though it's like the person who says, "Oh, I can't do this, I can't do that," or that's not humility either. Yeah, don't get me wrong. That's to be self-abasing in front of people is also to draw one's attention to yourself. And that's what a high tree does. They flourish in their mind and in their heart. So they're drawing attention to themselves. I really love the verse when Jesus says he's being called good by someone. He says, "Oh, don't call me good. I'm not good. There's only one who is good. There's only one to be exalted." Jesus didn't take. He didn't self-abase. He didn't self-exalt. If he was praised, he listened politely. If he was debased, he listened. That would kind of get him, though, only because when you debased him, you debased the Father. If you hated Jesus, you hated the Father. And he didn't like it that anyone hated the Father. That made him sad. And that should make us sad, too. So humility is not to exalt yourself, it's not to think of yourself too highly. It's to be teachable. It's to be, I can learn from you. I can appreciate you, others. I'm not talking about myself all the time. Those who talk about themselves all the time, that's not really, think about it. Think. In the world, that's what we're supposed to do. We have all this Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all of these things that allow us to very easily exalt ourselves before others. That's a slippery slope. If we see that we do that, if we see that, oh, maybe I am kind of a proud person, Lord, help me to be humble. Humble yourself before the Lord, and he will exalt you in due time. That's what he says. And if I feel like I don't do that, I forget what was the, it's the pulling the mote out of or how does it go? Pulling the log out of somebody's eye when we need to take the log out of our own eye. If we feel like we're humble, we need to take heed lest we fall into temptation and snare. So how do we stay humble? How do we not be proud? Well, I would say that we trust in the Lord and we ask the Lord to help us and be aware. We are blessed if we are humble, because the Lord says, if we are dry, if we're empty in ourselves, if we're low, and we know if we are, we know if we're one that, oh, I can do this, I can do that, look at what I did here. Or if we're not so confident. Sometimes anyways, we need to trust the Lord. He's the author and finisher of our faith. Ask Him to help us be humble, to help us to be a low tree, a dry tree. For if we are low, if we are dry, He will fill us up and raise us up. That's His promise. Interesting. Jesus talked about this a lot. And here's Old Testament saying the very same thing. Thank you for watching. Hope you watch again sometime.